Kevin, my friend, good to see you here on the show. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
It is always a pleasure to talk with you and talk about JJR. You guys are such an incredible company. So for those that don't know JJR, let's start with a little bit of the background of the company and maybe just a snapshot of what it looks like today, just so people have some context.
Yeah, JJR, my brother and I started JJR in 2011. Essentially, he was working for he was an aerospace engineer, and the company he worked for needed some overflow work done, and they had no one who could do it. And we had some equipment, and because we had been doing a couple of things non-aerospace. And so it started as kind of a side project to 13 years ago, making some sheet metal parts, and to deliver them, we had to put together a quality management system real quick and get those parts delivered. And once we did that, we realized it was actually a pretty viable opportunity. There was a real desire for aerospace quality parts delivered in record time. And that was kind of our niche. So we started with sheet metal, and then we started adding machine parts to that. And then we added thermal forming and custom forming rails. So a handful of different revenue streams, commodities that we do. But over the years, we kind of established ourselves as a reliable, quick turn source for a wide variety of parts that are all under the AS9100 quality standard. So over our 13 years, we've gone from our garage to, I think we're in a 20,000 square foot space now with 9 vertical mills, 1 lathe, CNC router, press brake, automated thermoforming capabilities. We do all of our own assembly in-house. And primarily we serve the commercial aerospace industry and the private space sector. So almost everything we do flies. We're a very high mix, low volume shop. So we do a lot of first run stuff. So it's a lot of programming, a lot of setup, data management, building manufacturing plans. Not a lot of the stuff we do is repeat work. And it's all fairly quick turn. And in the last 4 years, we've kind of quadrupled our throughput. We've grown about 436% in terms of what we can put out the back door each week. And right now we're just working on kind of doing more of the same, but then also starting to actively diversify what we do and reaching out some new some new markets. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We're 30 people. We're in Woodinville, Washington, and we're currently in between our first and second AS9100 audits. So we should have our cert in a couple weeks here. That's kind of where we're at.
Pretty cool. Yeah, that amount of growth in that short period of time is wild. We will talk more about that. So, and am I correct in saying the manufacturing equipment you had, was that for boat racing stuff or other fun things?
Yeah, before we started JJR, it was for a hobby. We were building hydroplanes. We raced boats, and so we had some equipment and some space to do some work. And once our boat work was done, we started taking on some of those side projects. And all that equipment's gone on the wayside now. We've got much more modern, nice equipment. I think the stuff we had back then was probably 40, 50 years old, but it got the job done in the beginning. So
yeah, and fine for a hobby. And we'll come back. I know Bryan, your brother, was I was talking to him a few months ago, and back into the boat thing, maybe a little bit more heavy. I don't know.
Oh yeah, but, a lot heavier.
Sounds like fun. So everything you just describes sounds like about the most sort of like intense pressure cooker type of job shop that I can think of. It's all aerospace, so highly regulated, quick turn, low volume, not much repeat. That is so your programming and quality plans and everything is new estimating almost all the time. That's a heavy load. Can you paint the picture of kind of how you were managing all that prior to getting ProShop?
Yeah, before ProShop, we had, we called it the job tracker, which it was just a spreadsheet that we had developed over, many years, kind of tweaking it and evolving it as we grew. It worked okay when we were very small, but as soon as you start doing a wider mix of parts, a higher volume of parts, a higher employee count. It got very, very cumbersome to manage our spreadsheet, which was essentially our ERP software, our tracking device for the whole company. And it was not live, only one person. It used to be just a spreadsheet before it was a Sheets document. So only one person can be editing it at a time. So literally we have, at any given point, we probably have 300 to 400 work orders in production. And so on every one of those, I would spend almost full time just printing out a 17-page spreadsheet, physically walking through our 20,000 square foot space, finding each part, updating the spreadsheet, going back to the computer, updating it digitally, getting out of the documents, and then publishing it to other people. And we'd have to do that once or twice a day just to keep it current. So it was never live. It was just a snapshot. And it got really, really heavy. And then we did get, what was it called? Job Boss. That was our first attempt at ERP software. And we spent quite a bit of time rolling that out, building it, populating it, rolling it all out, naming conventions for everything that goes into implementing ERP software. And within days of actually publishing it, saying, here we go, we're using Job Boss now, we realized how cumbersome it was. It was almost harder than using the spreadsheet because it didn't do much more for us, and it was a new system. And by coincidence, literally that week, I think we stumbled upon a video about ProShop, and my brother and I watched it, and it was a little painful. I think we had invested probably over 50 grand into our Job Boss, Job Boss software, and getting that all in place. But we just made a decision to cut our losses and work with the best product we could possibly find. And that was ProShop. And that was one of the single best decisions we've made in the last 7 or 8 years, because I honestly can't imagine what it'd be like if we were still using that old software. ProShop is, if you can use the internet, you can use ProShop. It's just that user friendly. And so that was kind of our metamorphosis. We went from spreadsheets, probably like everybody else. Then we picked what we thought was a really good ERP software. And I think going through that process, what it did do for us was illustrate how cumbersome most ERP softwares are, how they're not intuitive, they're not graphic, they don't connect well, they don't connect every system very well. So when we got ProShop, it made it a real no-brainer. Everything we hated about our previous systems, there was a solution for in ProShop. And then there were solutions for things we hadn't even thought of. So it's been one of the best tools we've ever purchased. So, yeah.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you so much. And when you, so you were literally on Job Boss. I don't think I realized that you were only on Job Boss for a short period of time. After.
Yeah. I mean, I think how
long was that rollout period?
I think it took, it probably took us 6 months to roll it out. It was really frustrating. One of the main things I remember that I didn't like about it was once you input something into the system, you can never remove it. So we felt very paralyzed when we were trying to think of naming conventions for sheet metal or COTS items. Once you establish a naming convention and put it in, you could never take it out. So if you wanted to change that naming convention, you would have the old iteration and the new one. So for instance, if you had 063, 6061 T6, 250/4, and then you wanted to change that naming convention for that sheet of sheet metal, both would be in there forever. So the system was constantly gaining pollution. You couldn't get it out. And so it just made the rollout process extremely slow because we deliberate on one thing for days, because once we put it in, we had to go with it. With ProShop, it's so modular and easy. You can put something in, play with it. If you don't like it, abort it and do something else. And so we felt very free to roll it out quickly and just go with it. And if it's not quite right, tweak it rather than hold, and then release. And it was frustrating because we did that for a long time. Once we released it, we realized we didn't even like what it was doing for us.
Right.
So yeah, I think it was probably a 6-month rollout. And then actually using it was maybe a month. And then we got ProShop, and that was it. We'd never looked back. So
got it. Wow. But that is a tough nut or a tough pill to swallow, that sunk cost. I know a lot of companies that we talk with that really are not happy with their ERP. They just cannot get past this sunk cost thing. It's like, we've invested so much money, we can't change it. It's like,
yeah, I think about it like an employee. If you have an employee and they're underperforming, you don't keep them on staff. You're just incurring further loss. So for us, it was simple. We found a better option. And why would we keep bleeding? Stop the bleeding and move on. And it was a lot. That 50 grand's nothing's not a small amount of money for a small business. But why would we continue to drive that vehicle when it's not the one we want to be in? You know,
sure.
I think I've told you before. At that point, it kind of became clear to us why would we drive a Pinto if we know the Ferrari exists? Mm-hmm. And for us, we found the Ferrari right after we bought the Pinto. So
you could afford the Ferrari.
Sell out the Pinto and drive the Ferrari. So
yeah. So let's talk about this growth that you've had, over 400% in 4 years. When we did some testimonial videos, you guys were talking about, maybe it was less because it was like a year and a half ago or a couple of years ago. But yeah, what really enabled that? I mean, is there a bunch more equipment on the floor, bigger team?
No, I think it was, shortly before we found ProShop, we started really getting serious about lean manufacturing and establishing a very lean culture here, which is a real buzzword these days. But if you do that for real, don't say you do it, but actually do it, it becomes a real cultural thing that every person on staff here is constantly looking at how to do things better. And so we had already established that culture here. ProShop just became another tool or a vehicle for us to accelerate that. And what I mean by that is when we got ProShop and ProShop's it's very intuitive. It's very easy to use. So very quickly you can start getting results. You can start seeing how your company is actually performing. And ProShop is a data collection system, essentially. It can show you bad information. It can show you how bad you're doing in certain areas or how good you're doing. So if you have a culture of continuous improvement in place and then a tool like ProShop to show you where you need to make those improvements, it just organizes it for you. So you can go, sweet, we're hitting our metrics there, but we're not hitting them there. Let's focus on this. So it just shows you where to put your continuous improvement energy, really. Mm-hmm. And so not only did it make us more capable because of what it can do, it gave us the time to and the visibility of what we needed to focus on. So for us, it streamlined our digital operation, made it everything in terms of our data entry, our organization, our everything became so clean and efficient that our efficiency was going through the roof. Well, if we don't have a physical apparatus, a shop capable of processing that new efficiency, it's like having small exhaust on a big engine. It's not you need the whole thing to be bigger. Yeah. And so during the rollout and implementation of ProShop, we quickly realized that and decided we wanted to change the footprint of the shop, the physical element of our company to match the digital efficiency of it. So as we rolled ProShop out, we did our best to incorporate how it operates physically on our floor. And that merriment happened kind of organically, but came together really well. And so sometimes now it's the efficiency of the floor pushing us to use the system differently, to leverage it better because we're outgrowing it. And then other times the system is showing us where we're lacking and what we need to do to correct that on the floor. So it's, as long as you're willing to admit you're imperfect, ProShop will show you where your imperfection and do something about it and blow the doors off the place. So,
well, appreciate you sharing all that. It is, I will, as you often see in ads, like uncommon results in small, asterisk below, the marrying of lean and ProShop, I think clearly it's a powerful combination. And I don't think I quite had realized how much you guys were leaning into that, to use a pun, I guess, until I came down and did that, we did that sort of shop tour video or shop, interview video. And
Yeah.
were there in your little morning huddle area, and you had 2-second lean and Paul Akers on one side of your cork board, and you had ProShop's mission statement on the other side and our logo.
Yeah.
And I was just like, holy smokes, that's a lot of Bellingham, Washington influence, because that's where, of course, Paul Akers is up here as well. But yeah, it's just, I'd love to go down maybe that a little bit, on the lean side and on the adoption and having your team clearly buy into it so effectively. Because that's a hard thing that many companies don't succeed at, is really getting the culture of lean and continuous improvement, like down into the base level of all employees, where they're excited, they're giving ideas, they're working on improvements. What did it take for you guys to do that?
Yeah, so it was inspired by Paul Akers, his 2-second lean program. When I read that book, and so much of the things he was saying in there were things I was already telling our crew, but I think he was doing a better job of kind of quantifying the theories about that are illustrated in 2-second lean. They're not new theories necessarily, but he does a really good job of breaking it down into bite-sized chunks that you can go, oh, I actually can see a starting point here. If we just do this one little thing here, it gets started and it builds inertia. So in the beginning, we did kind of have a lean champion, someone who was in charge of pushing the culture, and that was me. And I quickly realized that should be a job that goes away at any organization, because they're essentially the person reminding people that this is how we think, and this is who we are, and this is how we do things now. And if you do a good job of that, it should become cultural. There should be no one person reminding everybody that this is how we do it. It's just how we do it. And for me, it starts in the hiring process. I establish all these things in the interview process and let people know that if this isn't interesting to you, then this isn't the right place for you, because it's very real. And when you come here, you're going to participate in this. And so you kind of set the parameters there. And by the time anyone clocks in here, they are of the mindset that we're good, but we're not done. And whatever we're doing, we're looking at how to do it better. And again, kind of based on Paul Akers' theory, we really, really push employee empowerment. So each person here is in charge of making their day as easy as possible every day. It's become very apparent to us that efficiency is synonymous with enjoyability. So if you can create the easiest day possible for your employees, it's probably the result of getting inefficiency out of their day. And so we have them float the ideas to us, and then they take care of them themselves. Or if they needed time or budget for that, we allocate that to it. So my job is simple. It's to facilitate their success and get out of their way. And so you hire the best people you can, put them into very good, clean systems, and then get out of the way and let their human potential do their thing. So ProShop, Paul Akers, JJR, when you mash all that together, essentially what we've tried to do is eliminate as much waste from our system so that people aren't looking for tools. They're not wondering what job to work on next. They're not wondering if this person's here today or not. There's no questions. You just show up and do your job. And there's very clean, concise processes for doing your job. And if we find one that's not clean and concise or hasn't scaled with us, just openly admit it and start addressing it right away and get it out of the way of what you're trying to do. And where ProShop fits into that is very simple. It very clearly gives you metrics on whatever you want to look at. And so as long as you have a target, ProShop will tell you if you're on target or not. And then it's up to you to do something about it. So
besides the common ones that, ISO and AS would require on-time delivery and scrap rate and things like that, what other internal metrics are you guys tracking to drive that behavior and see where those improvements need to be made?
Yeah, so we do, I've kind of started looking at different KPIs through our entire operation. Some of them are maybe a little abstract and odd, and then some of them are probably more standard. When we started increasing our volume out the back door, we've grown by over 4 times in terms of what we can deliver each week. That didn't mean anything if we are doing it on overtime. So you can do a lot more work, but expel a lot more labor to do it. And it's not really success. Efficiency is doing more work with less energy. And so when our throughput started going up, I started tracking our overtime hours. And 2 or 3 years ago, we probably had at least 10% overtime every week, maybe closer to 15. It was really hard to track, honestly, but we had 20, 30, 40 hours of overtime every week to try and get the work out the door. Yeah. Right now we have maybe an hour a week, almost zero overtime at JJR.
An hour per person or across the whole team?
The entire company.
Wow.
That's not because we've added a lot of people. It's because we've done a lot better job with all of our systems, making it very quick and easy to do the work. The other thing is with the ProShop schedule, we're not guessing whether or not we can get something done by a certain date. We can actually see when it would go on a machine and come off. So when you guess, I think we can hit the 27th of May with that part. And then it's May 14th and you're going, whoa, we're behind. We got to put overtime on it. If you actually can see your schedule and sell things that are real promises, it makes your job much easier you're not selling rainbows. You're selling targets and hitting them. Right. And so just the visibility of your actual workload for your man load and your machine loads and understanding actually where you're at in terms of real capacity, you can understand how much more you have. Take that expedite job or don't take it. Don't make promises you can't keep. And we're much better at that now because we actually know our workload. It's not a guess. It's based on data. And so, overtime is gone. We don't estimate jobs on overtime. So if you're doing jobs on overtime, you're losing money. So it's a win-win. The employees are happy because they have their time off, and we're happy because the jobs come in, less, cost less to make the parts. So that's been a big one for us, tracking overtime. I'm trying to think of anything else, but we track stuff everywhere. Just the nature of the time tracking in ProShop makes it really easy to see. Like you can quickly and see how long has something been sitting in an area because you can see when it was checked off from the previous op. So I can quickly go and say, hey, I can go into the quality department and say, hey guys, I don't want a part coming in for first buy off and sitting for more than 15 minutes. It's really easy to check and see how long it's been sitting on that rack. And so you can quickly and temporarily check things. You can actually formally put things into your quality procedures if you want to check them. So you can use it a lot of different ways for tracking any kind of metrics.
Just back on the overtime for a second, did you have employees that were counting on that overtime because they make more money? And how did you? Yeah,
that's a really good point too. We have had that, yes. And when the need for overtime goes away and you still have employees that would like overtime, that's the only reason we actually really have overtime is there's some guys here that want it and I like them. And we can do a little bit of that. It's not a good, it's not the best business decision in the world, but the facts are we don't have a need for a lot of overtime. And so if guys want it, they check with me and I'll give them a couple hours here and there. But that goes to another thing about employee satisfaction. If your employees need overtime to survive, you're probably not paying them enough if they're a good employee. And so I don't like that as a solution anyways. We try really hard to take care of our employees so that they don't need that. We had one employee who was just a stud here. And when he came here, he had a second job. And I told him, I want you committed here. I want your best every day. And because he'd leave here and go to work at night and he'd be exhausted in the morning. I was like, what do we have to do to make so that we can sustain your life so you can put everything you have into us and quit that second job? And we worked that out with him. And it just gives you more dedicated employees who know that you're taking care of them. So overtime in any way to me is not a great thing. For those reasons, you shouldn't have to live on overtime. You shouldn't need overtime to survive. I don't think. And you're not quoting the jobs on overtime. So if you're doing them on time and a half, you're losing money right there. So, and then you burn your employees out. If that's a regular part of your system, you're going to burn those guys out. They're going to make mistakes. So, we really, really look at overtime and try and keep it to a minimum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think that's a good long-term way to think about it and, pay them enough that they can live comfortably without needing that overtime. Because a lot of times it's like, I need it, I got to pay the bills.
Yeah, and we did start at second shift. We go 7 days a week with our manufacturing. Yeah. So when it got to the point where so regularly we had certain functions that had to happen 7 days a week to keep up, it just became obvious we need to be going 7 days a week. And so we've slowly scaled that. We started with a couple operators, and then we've slowly built it from there. And this year, we'll finally have almost our entire production floor capable of working 7 days a week. We've got a second router operator that's going to run the tables 7 days a week. Our CNC mills run 7 days a week. Right now, they all run parts once they're proven, so we don't need a QA apparatus on the weekend because the parts are bought off. So the next step will be to add a QA apparatus this year, so that we can run first run parts and buy offs through there on the weekend as well. Right now, it's largely just spindle time. So, but it's been a nice way for us to ease into having a second shift.
Are your shifts a 4-day and a 3-day?
4-day and a 3-day. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's 3/12s, just manufacturing folks to increase spindle time. And it's been a good solution for us with the high mix that we do. Had we done a night shift, because our run times are so low that we'd constantly be running into midnight or 1 a.m, need a new buy off, and we wouldn't have a QA apparatus there. Whereas right now, if we do one handoff on Friday morning, get those parts bought off on Friday, then they have Saturday and Sunday to just run parts all weekend. And so it's been a good fit for us and easily scalable. We use the tie-in function in ProShop on all of our work orders, as it's intended, and it works really well.
Got it. Yeah, I was going to say, doing, trying to the strategy of setting up jobs and proving them out on day shift or first shift, and then having them run it out on the next shifts. That works, I think, really well, especially in a production environment. But in an environment like you guys have, high mix, low volume, that's a hard. Sometimes there's because since everything's a brand new part number, there's a lot of things to solve. How are you like tactically trying to do that? Do you have just like a setup on one machine that someone proves out and then lets it sit for a little bit?
No, we don't do that. What we do is we'll identify longer run times, meaning some work orders that have more pieces or a long run time. Okay. And we'll work that into the schedule such that it'll get put onto a machine on a Thursday and bought off Thursday night or Friday. Our QA guys are here Friday. Okay. So it's just a little bit of strategic planning. We have so many different work orders in production all the time. And sometimes some of our work is repeat. So, we can run a few future ship sets if there's nothing else to run on the weekend and just put them on the shelf if we want. So it's just having someone looking at it 2 or 3 days in advance, seeing, again, using the scheduling apparatus in ProShop to see when the machines are going to come available, what the estimated setup time is for this or that, to make sure it's going to come in, as long as we hit that estimate roughly, we'll know that machine will be set up and ready to run near the end of the day, Friday. And so for us, it's not that hard because there's such a mix of parts. All we have to do is find 2 or 3 that we can put in at the right time, and it works. And we're not huge. We're only having to do that for, there's 5 guys on the shift and they're each running 2 machines. So it's not a ton of work we have to figure out, but we are trying to become more flexible in what we can run through that shift. And we won't be able to do that till we add that QA person on that shift. And that'll probably be quarter number 2 of this year. Got it. And then we'll be able to run a first part through, get it bought off Saturday at 4 p.m. and continue working. So it'll just give us more options as to what parts we run when.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned estimated times. And I believe I've talked to Bryan. Is that his part of the business? But because he's talked about how you guys have really kind of doubled down on more thorough, accurate estimating compared to the way it was done in the past.
That's
still
correct.
Fast,
yeah.
Still faster, I think, than he said than it used to be. But just talk about the importance of accurate estimates.
Yeah, it's absolutely paramount to our operation. We're very, very fortunate that we found our estimator that we do, because he was a plug and play expert. He was familiar with ProShop. And that is one thing about ProShop, is you are not going to reap all the benefits of the entire software unless you start at the estimate, start as far to the front of the life cycle of a part as possible, because anything you enter at that point doesn't have to be entered later. And so we have invested a lot of time, and we still do tweak them, building very thorough estimating templates for all of the common kinds of parts we make. And so those are on standby. And each time we get an RFQ, our estimators will pull up the template that best matches the opportunity in front of them, and just start plugging in times and tweaking things, and then grab from the master list of routing anything they want to add or subtract. So building a manufacturing plan, once you've really, really thought about those estimating templates, is not that difficult. It just has to be done every time. You don't have to, but you're just going to lose a lot of the potential of the software for you. The kinds of things that will parse for you won't be there if you start later. So start at the estimate for everything you do. Even if you don't get that job, you can pull up that estimate later and use it as a template if you need. It's not like it goes away. It's all there for you. So even when you don't get awarded, there's still benefit to doing it in the system, because you can always refer to it later. So yeah, estimates are absolutely crucial, because, why are they crucial? There's so many different reasons. Having a nice template makes your estimator think of everything they need to think of. The plan is kind of already there, saying, oh, yes, I need to make sure I account for that and account for that and account for that. So it's a nice roadmap for an estimator to follow. One of the hugest benefits of how estimating works if you use it in ProShop is how quickly you can actually get stuff to the floor if you are awarded. Right. It would take, if we got a $200,000 PO, which is a big one for us, if we got one like that 3 years ago, it would take us 2 weeks to get those work orders to the floor, at least 2 weeks. And we numerous times this year, we got 2 or 3, or I think even, last week we got $430,000 in new work, and we had it to the floor in 36 hours, all of it.
Oh my gosh.
And that's because it's all already there. You literally, it's one click to turn it into work orders, and then it goes to the PP check. And that's our PP check is designed to take an estimate, which is imperfect, and make it the perfect manufacturing plan. So it quickly gets to the floor, which is nice, because now you have multiple planners creating manufacturing plans. And our PP check is also as such that once the linear functions on it are done, then it cuts loose the purchasing dashboard, the programming, the engineering if necessary. So now 3 people are working on it all in tandem while materials en route. And so it cuts that pre-production life cycle. Depending on the part and the complexity and such, it can cut it from 50 to 75% in terms of time, how quick you can get that actually into production. Wow. So that took some iterations of figuring out our PP check. I think we probably tweaked it 4 or 5 times to get it where we are now. But just knowing that if you start with a really good estimating template that creates the skeleton of the project for you, then when it's awarded, it's very quick to get it to the floor. And then it slows down a little bit, but you have multiple people working on it. And so from point of contract to a spindle turning, for us, it went from weeks to days. On a typical project, it went from weeks to days. And that's huge. When most of our work we do in 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, you're talking about picking up 2 weeks for your production team. That's life-changing.
Wow.
So,
have you seen that impact your total lead times, I guess, but on-time delivery as well?
Yeah, our on-time delivery, we've done a really good job of scaling coming out of COVID. And so this year, our number one mission, shop-wide, number one goal was to improve our on-time delivery. The reason that became our goal this year is because before we couldn't even track our on-time delivery. It was so difficult.
Right.
Now we have very easy system to see how we're doing. And we went from less than 50% on-time delivery this last January to less than 2% late delivery right now. We're about 98 point something on-time delivery right now. We did that in 8 months. And it's because we had, like I said in the beginning, ProShop will show you your ugly spots too. And that was a real ugly one for us. We had increase the amount of work we could do, but we were still struggling to get it done on time. And just by looking at that, identifying what was causing those things, we were able to systematically remove them from the system, and it worked. So even when ProShop shows you something that's not fun to look at, just look at it until it's not there anymore. And it's awesome. So
that is a massive improvement. What were some of the things that were causing late deliveries that you fixed?
The two main ones were, some of them were our fault and some of them weren't. An example of something that wasn't our fault, that was very, very prevalent, and I imagine it is with lots of job shops, is you get a PO and you get the drawing and parts list and a model or whatever data they give you, and there's a discrepancy or you don't have something. You're waiting on your client for that. Well, if we don't have good, easy ways to track, we were contracted on this date, we got all of the data on this date. If you don't have a method for actually tracking and organizing that information, when it comes down to it 6 weeks later, you don't remember why it's late. It's just late. So it falls on you. You're expediting stuff when you don't have to be, and incurring that cost when maybe it wasn't even your problem. So literally just having ProShop and the notes section and how we do it, we can document everything with the project. We got it on this date. We got the model on this date. We got every piece of the puzzle to make the part on this date. And that's when the clock starts. And so actually being able to track that has been huge for us. And so that was one way that, even though it's not our fault, we learned to control it. We can ping those clients. Hey, we're still waiting on data. Ping that client for that data. Let's get going. So even when it's not in our control,
their due dates,
we can track it. Yep.
Okay.
And then examples of where it was our fault. Real easy things. The schedule, guessing it when something's going to go on a machine versus knowing when it's going on a machine, made it much more real for us to see how and where we should put the work so that everything arrives on time. Trying to think of other ways that it increased very common. We would need to engineer something for a part, some custom tooling to make it. This and that. Well, that if you don't capture that in your estimate, and then it gets down to planning, the part's ready to go on the machine, and you realize you need a die or a piece of inspection equipment, and you don't have it. And you haven't even purchased it yet. And so you're literally ready to make the part, and cutters are 4 days away, or your thread gauge is 4 days out. And so you just lose that time, and that's massive. And so in our pre-production checklist, there's a spot to remind the planner, do we have the tooling? Do we have inspection requirements? Do anything you need? And if you need to make a set of dies or who knows what, you can cut a work order for that with a due date a week ahead of when the part's going to go on the machine. And what do you know? Your tooling's sitting there when you need it. Literally just those organizational tools take those stupid dead lulls out of your system that are chronic. Everyone deals with that. And it's literally just a system to remind your players how to do their job. And there's countless examples, but just those, I mean, if you can pick up 4 days, if you can get a job to the floor 3 days sooner and then not be delayed 3 days because of tooling and those kinds of, you're picking up over a week on a 5 week lead time. That's 20% of your lead time. So
absolutely.
How often when you do deliver something, is it a day or 2 or 3 late? If you can figure out how to get a day or 2 or 3 out of every piece, you're never going to have anything late, and you're not paying expedite fees. And it's been amazing transformation this year for us.
Yeah. And I imagine at the same time, it makes the day you mentioned earlier, your employees, their goal is to make their day easier with lean things. And like when you're not rushing and scrambling and breaking down a job because you don't have that tool and trying to put something else on and last minute, that's not easy or fun. So absolutely. You're much more prone to make mistakes if you're going faster than you should be. And it's not like we're lazy. We don't want to slouch around, but you don't want to be going if you're doing anything unsustainable, you're going to screw up at some point. So hustle, but don't run, and take your time and just do the job. Just execute the manufacturing plan you developed, and it will work. So I want to just ask a little bit of maybe a couple of specifics on estimating templates, because some people might not even comprehend what level of detail you might be talking about. So do you have some off the top of your head, or I can share from my own experience? But
Yeah. I guess I don't have anything too specific. I guess what I would say is just for us, we're just a high mix, low volume shop. So we encounter all kinds of different stuff, and so for each shop, I guess what I would say with your estimated templates is I don't think you can really overinvest in them. Just look at what the 2 or 3 or 4 different things you do most of and build out a really detailed template for that. Sure. And then you can always have your master list of all the things you might encounter. And each time you encounter something new, add it to that list. Heat treat to this spec, or get some new material you never work with, whatever. As you continually build those things out, you're always going to have a template that more closely reflects the next thing that comes along. Right. So you're not starting from scratch each time. The template is there. You're just starting to enter data specific to that part. And then just making sure your estimators know that, very common, you're going to get a family of parts to quote, right? And they're all just slightly different. Once you build the one, you can copy it out and tweak it for each of the other dash numbers. So just leveraging the system as much as you possibly can in the estimating phase. Anything you do in the estimating realm is going to save you time later. Yeah. And so do as much of it as there in that phase of it as you can. And it takes good estimators, it takes diligent estimators that enjoy their work. And if you put a good person at the helm of these controls, you can really have nice tight results.
So one of the, and I'm curious to know if you're doing this, but one of the things I was thinking of that we certainly did is, for example, you lots of your parts go out to get plated, right? And when they come in, you're going to do an incoming inspection, right? If it's anodized, you might look in the threads, see if there's gunk or if they've damaged the threads or whatever. And since we have part check information in the estimates as well, you can build into that template that anytime you have an outside process, you're going to have an inspection plan for check the threads, check the surface finish, check the coverage. Yep. So therefore, you put it in the template once, and then every part you clone off of that now has those inspection requirements as incoming inspection from plating, and you don't have to build that every single time.
Exactly. And we do that. It's for second nature. That's an example. We do that. And I don't even remember that we do that because it's just kind of commonplace here. We have certain chunks for outside processing. Another example, we have outside processing is plating or things like that, but we also have outside manufacturing. Right. If on occasion we have someone do something for us, whether it's a welding or some laser work or something like that, that's work we want to run through QA, not necessarily just through shipping. We want QA inspectors to inspect that work, not just shipping people. You're not just making sure the chemical conversion coat was applied. There might be dimensions that were created or something done to a certain spec that needs to be physically inspected. So on our outside manufacturing cluster in our estimating templates, there's always a QA resource behind it for the inspection. And so when it shows up at the back door, receiving sees, this has to go to QA for inspection. We're not doing it here because our QA, our receiving inspection, they have certain things they're allowed to inspect and not inspect, and QA has a higher tier of things they can do. So you can control it all the way in the estimating phase that 6 weeks later, when this thing shows up, based on the estimate, we actually know where it's going to go in the shop, and no one has to make sure it goes there for that stop. It's built in from the template. That's a really good example. Yeah.
Has your actual quality rating changed? And were you previously doing inspection on paper, or what was your process prior?
We would make hand bubble drawings and inspect everything by hand, write it down in red ink on there. And now we do use high QA. So that's during our pre-production checklist, someone's creating the bubble drawing and getting that data added to the part level. So by the time it ever comes in for a first part buy off, that's done and waiting for the inspector to populate the data. And we delivered, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. I should have grabbed them for you, but I think we delivered 55,000 pieces last year, and it's going to be similar to that this year. And like I said, the number of pieces we've delivered has gone up 2, 3, 4 times. the number of rejections has gone down by 4 or 5 times. So,
wow.
Despite delivering a lot more, that's one of those metrics that you should track, right?
Yeah,
just delivering
sure.
a lot of work is one thing. It's not successful unless it stays. If it comes back, it's no good. So,
Yes.
The fact that we've increased our throughput as much as we have while decreasing NCRs is a testament to our entire QMS, which is embedded in ProShop.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Can you speak to any of the impact that ProShop has had on you personally, in terms of your stress level or hours you work, or I don't know what else? But
yeah, for me, that's a good question. Probably for me, it's the fact that I have time to spend. I have a good portion of my time here that I can spend on what I want to spend it on, not just kind of survival. I literally was spending at least half my time gathering status on parts and not sitting and going, all right, what new revenue stream do we want to push into? What hiring needs do I see coming 6 months down the road that I should start addressing now? What system is good but not great that we could glean some efficiency out of? So I spend all my time these days on that. I spend full time looking ahead, not just trying to figure out where we are. That, for me personally, that's the biggest thing. I haven't walked around with a spreadsheet in years. And that's got to be the biggest tangible thing, is all of my time is spent looking ahead and making a plan,
right.
setting up targets, rather than just trying to figure out where we are today. And
Sure.
That's huge. So we actually, for the first time, have a rudder, someone going, all right, if we're going to try and do that, how do we get there? And I can just architect a plan for that while everyone else is executing. And it's been really beneficial for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is, that's such a fantastic example of just being able to work on your business more and not in it. You're not surrounded in the details all day.
Yeah.
So,
and it is web-based, kind of a not so global thing, but it is really nice if I'm not at the shop and someone has a question, I can do everything from my phone. I can check status on a part. I can, anything you can do from your office, you can actually, it's not as easy, but you can pull it up on your phone while you're driving and get someone a status update or whatever, at any time. I can sit from my office and I can push a button and see who's all clocked in and where they are in the building and not have to go look for them. It's really straightforward. I mean, there's countless examples of how it makes your day easier. And they're all such routine things. I don't really realize the difference it's making all the time, but probably on a global level, and the difference it would make for anyone who doesn't have it is someone at your shop is going to all of a sudden have a bunch of free time. And for us, that was me, and it let me, actually look forward and have a plan instead of just reacting constantly to everything that comes up with a small business. I can take time and get those things out of the way before they're sitting on us. So we just go forward, and it's just been huge for us.
Your comment about checking status on a phone, I can't remember if it was you. I think it might have been Bryan. Told me a story a little while ago of, I think driving home, got a call from a client saying, hey, we realized we had a discrepancy between the model and the drawing on one of the parts. There's a hole that was drawn at the wrong size or whatever. We need to know what size that you actually made it. And it was like, pull up the phone, look at the first article. Oh yeah, it's that number, as opposed to driving back home, going to find the job on the shop floor, looking to see if it's written down on a piece of paper.
Yep. We've done that many, many times. It's so quick and easy to fetch data, whatever data point you're looking for. And inspection data, it's having your inspection data recorded and easily retrievable can save so much time. A lot of, I'm sure it's like a lot of job shops. A lot of our stuff dimensions are before finish. And so being able to look up what was recorded before finish and have it documented versus when it came back from type 3 anodized, for example, that hole's going to shrink. We can show you that per your print, it was in and now it's out, blah, blah, blah. And it's great. And we even, for example, on something like that, we can make notes for, and in each op, if op 100 is going to be making that bore, we can say, hey, put a note for op 100, make that bore on the big side because it's going to shrink with type 3 anode. So yes, we have a 10 thou tolerance, but to make this part successfully, let's aim at a 3 thou tolerance at the top side of the whole of the allowed size. So that even with finish, we know it's going to be, and you can control all that and when you make that part level, anything you do there, every time you ever make that part, someone's going to see that note when they get to it and go, oh, this gets type 3, it's going to build up. Let's make the hole big and still be in. So you can control it all. The inspection, the IPCs and the bubble drawings and the high QA functionality of ProShop has just been awesome.
So glad that's helping so much. So I know you're just in between your first and second AS audit, but have you had customers that have come do audits? And I'm wondering, like, what's your maybe bigger question than that? Just what's the feedback been from your customers about the way you used to operate?
We use ProShop as a selling point. So anytime a customer comes here, we will spend time. If you're interfacing with a client, your number one mission is to show them how you can help them. How do you make their day easier? And the easier you make your day, when you sign a contract with a client, you're all on one team now. So if your day is easier, their day is easier. If you can get them status updates in minutes instead of hours, that's a benefit to them. If you can show them this isn't a guess. If we sign this contract, we know when this part is going on a machine. We know how long it's going to take. Therefore, we know it's going to be off, and we know we'll deliver it on time versus telling them we think we can get that to you. Those things actually add value to them. So we find huge benefit in sitting down with our clients and showing them, not just telling them this is what we do and this is how good we are at this and that. Show them this is how we do that so that they understand our process and how we're going to arrive at a successful part for them. And people love it. They love seeing that you actually have a plan and a route for success for everything you're going to do. And it's been one of our favorite things. We sit them upstairs, we walk through our entire process digitally, and then we bring them downstairs and show them exactly how that's going to flow through our shop. And by the time they do that, there's really no doubt in their mind. They can see these guys. I mean, probably the most common refrains when someone walks into our shop is it's the cleanest shop they've ever seen. It's the most organized shop they've ever seen. No one's going crazy. No one's running around. It's very stable. It's very steady. And that's because we're just executing a plan. We're just on a walk from point A to point B. And so if you can illustrate that to your clients, you can build confidence in them. They will have more confidence in you because they actually see what you're going to do. It's not just telling them what you're going to do. And that's huge. And we bring clients through. We brought other shops through. We've had, we do conformity on site. So we have DARS, FAA. DARS come here and their feedback has just been amazing. So everyone who physically shows up at this building is usually pretty shocked. You know, we're a small job shop and I don't know what people usually expect when they walk into one. But the refrain we usually see is, whoa, we did not expect this. And we're very, very proud of that.
That's super cool. And thank you. I know you guys have been very generous to open your doors for other companies that are interested in ProShop and wanting to learn more. And you've shown them around and told them how you do it. And I thank you for expressing just the sort of selling your QMS, selling your business system, and why that's so important. I've been beating that drum forever, and it's great to hear a very concrete example of how you're doing that well. Let me think. What other? I know we're getting close to sort of our hour here. If you Well, maybe this is something you've actually done. If you were, talking to another shop that's not convinced that, ProShop is the right tool or an ERP, is the right tool. It's really understandable that there's a lot of hesitation out there because the industry stats on like how poor ERPs often can go. They're terrible, right? They're really bad stats. Like 70% of ERP implementations don't succeed in the goal of improving or doing whatever their goal was. So what would you say to a shop that's rightfully skeptical?
I would say that if you're going to run a company, you need to know what you're doing well and what you're not doing well. And then you need to be honest with yourself about that and make changes. And so visibility is probably the most crucial thing. You can't fix something if you don't know it's broke. And ProShop is a very all-encompassing, very intuitive software that will bring data from all over your company into one place in front of you on your screen. And you can quickly click through it and look at what any element of your company and see how it's doing compared to how you thought it was doing. And then it's up to you to make a change. And the biggest piece of advice I'd give to someone who's considering ProShop is trust it. You guys have nearly 100 people now developing this product, and you've been working on it for a long time. You have thought of the stuff that we haven't thought of. And so when you buy ProShop, use it as intended. We tried taking it thinking, hey, we're pretty good. We're going to take this software and become better, and we're going to tweak it and use it how we want to use it. Almost every tweak we made to ProShop, after using it, we've changed it right back to how it was intended to be used, because the functionality of how this feeds that, and it all works together. And so if you buy ProShop, remember, you just paid for that. It's a good product. Use it as intended. Do not change it without talking to your guys, because it works really, really well. And with the custom queries functions and different ways you can change how it operates for you, if you do that correctly, you can tailor it right to your business model. Mm-hmm. But don't go outside of that envelope without asking anybody. We did that, and it cost us our rollout time and inefficiency in the beginning. But it did also illustrate to us how important it is to use the system as intended, because you have a lot of professionals working on it, and it works really, really well. It is a leap to go from no ERP to ERP, or like we did, you've already invested in one and making a change. But I'm telling you, I think of that like an employee. If you know that employee is not working how you want it to, do not keep them employed. You're going to continue to accrue that loss. Yeah. You need to cut ties with that and put the best people in your building you can, put the best software in the building you can, put the best equipment in the building you can, and then get out of the way and see what it does. And ProShop is easily our most tangible example of having the guts to make a change and reaping the benefits of that. So,
Thank you.
Use it as intended.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that you guys had tried to tweak a bunch of things and hijack fields and stuff. So it's funny to be reminded.
Don't do it.
So just last couple things. What has been the most rewarding part of just being a business owner, a shop owner? Like, what do you really get out of it that you love? My absolute favorite part of this whole thing is, for me, it's people. I absolutely love people. Machines do what they're told, and people make the difference. And that philosophy goes into every single decision I make here. Machines don't inspire machines to make a better decision. They don't inspire growth. Nothing but people can make those differences. And so I absolutely love finding someone who's maybe not been given enough opportunity in the past or has been misused in the past, plunking them into a nice, clean system, and then watching their human potential take over. And when you can flip someone's switch and turn them from a 6 to an 8 or an 8 to a 10, it's amazing. And when you have really good, clean, concise systems, you can take lesser qualified people and make them successful right away and then grow them. And with the culture we have here, we're very successful with taking lesser experienced people, putting them into a really clean system, so their brain isn't cluttered with how I do the job, where I find this. All of their mental aptitude is put on the problem, the work. Right. And so you get the best out of them. And for us, my favorite thing of this whole thing is watching people come into this machine shop and go, wow, this is real. And it is different. And it makes a difference in their quality of life. And they become happy and more productive. And it's
it keeps building. Each time we put a new person in here, it adds to that effect. And it seems like our inertia just keeps continuing. So for me, my favorite thing, I never really imagined it, is not parts. It's not machines. It's not technology. It's watching people grow. And I absolutely love that. And the cool thing, how ProShop has helped me with that is, like I said earlier, I'm not putting fires out every day. If something's on fire, there's already a problem. It's too late. So prevent them. And I tell everybody, my job is to facilitate your success and not to pollute this workforce with mediocrity. Put the best people you can into a clean system and see what they're made of. And we're lucky to have a group of people that are built really well. So
that's a fantastic answer. I love it. Well, Kevin, if people want to reach out to you, learn more about JJR, or talk to you, connect, how would you suggest they go about doing that?
They can contact me, Kevin, at jjrfabrication.com. You can go to our website, jjrfabrication.com. It's under construction right now, about 3 weeks away from our new website. We've rebranded everything. So website's pretty old, but the new one will be here shortly.
Cool.
But yeah, reach out. We're happy to help any way we can.
All right. Well, thank you for everything you said. I really appreciate it. It's such an honor to serve people with such a great mission like you of helping and growing other people, and we can do that through some technology and our team. It just feels fantastic. So appreciate everything and great conversation today. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.
Cheers, Kevin.
Cheers.
Hey, buddy. How's it going today?
Oh boy, I'm excited. It's a good day. Yeah.
So
what's happened for you?
I am extra excited after talking to Kevin Richards at JJR. I don't believe you've ever been there, have you?
I have never been to JJR,
Okay.
but the more I hear about them, the more I think I gotta go.
Yes, we need to remedy this very soon. You would absolutely love it. As a major proponent of lean, and of course, all in a ProShop, they have paired those two things to such an incredible effect that it's almost mind-blowing. So they've grown their revenue over 400% in the last 4 years, 436%, I think he said.
That is crazy.
Without a ton, really any more significant, investments in machines or people. So they've grown a little bit, of course, but most of that is just like eliminating waste, having very efficient systems that they use to process all their work. And
oh my God, that is magic. I just love it. Oh my gosh. So they don't have 400% more people and 400% more machines.
Close.
They just have, oh man.
Yeah. They have about 30 people, and they did add a second shift, so I think that's a change. But and that's an important one because you get a lot more. You get 7 days a week of spindle time.
Yeah, it's kind of like adding machines, except you didn't have to buy any machines.
no lease payments. ProShop has just been such a huge unlock of telling them exactly where to focus those improvement activities, and they're like their inspiration for lean is Paul Akers' 2-second lean.
Oh, nice. Lovely. Paul Akers. Awesome.
I made a post a couple of years ago. We went down to a testimonial video with them, and I shared this post, and I can't remember if you remember it, but in their sort of Kaizen sort of group, meeting area every morning, they have a big cork board, and on one side they have 2-second lean with the picture of the book and Paul, and then on the right-hand side they have ProShop's mission statement, our logo, and then a bunch of ProShop stuff. And it's like right there.
That's how they roll. Oh, that is so cool.
When I first saw it, I was like, holy cow, like that's a whole lot of influence from Bellingham, Washington, right?
Yeah, right.
Paul Akers from here too. So anyway, and one of the things I just love, just a couple of things. So they've actually, as they've quadrupled their number of parts, they've dramatically cut their NCR, count or customer return count by like 4 or 5 times as well. So like just a massive reduction, or increasing quality, reduced cost of quality. They've also gone from like 50% on-time delivery to 98+% on-time delivery.
No way. They're doing it all at once. I guess they're all so interrelated, just like that, right?
They are massive proponents of estimating templates and really good pre-processing checklist.
Yes.
Like dial those two things in together and it's like magic.
That's awesome.
And I know I knew all the nuances of how that can work so well together, but they have just leaned into those two things so well. And then the last thing, which he didn't really talk about on the show, but we when I went down there, so they have standardized operations. So like, final inspection is always up 2000 or, incoming is 1500 or whatever it is, right? And they have put signs on all of their workstations for the operation numbers that happen at those stations, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe not the CNCs because you get different op numbers at CNCs, but like incoming inspection, final inspection, assembly, those all have, big numbers, and they should match exactly what's in the digital system. So they redid all their floors to match ProShop's operation numbers.
Awesome. I love it.
And that's sort of that clarity of just like make the digital exactly like the physical and vice versa. And no one's confused when they come in. It's like, this is where you're going. That's the dashboard you look at. And the work instructions are right there. And the plan is right there. And you just do it.
Digital twin stuff, right? Like that's exactly what people are talking about when they're like, what's the digital twin? It's like, well, the real world looks just like, the computer says it should look. And the more you can do it, the easier things get for everybody to understand. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
wow,
anyway,
super excited.
We need to get you down there. Go visit them. You'll geek out like crazy.
Maybe sounds like maybe even getting some of our other team members down there to see that in motion, right? See some of our developers and some of our, product people. I think it would be really impactful for them.
Yeah, and as we have team members come to Seattle, it's a quick trip to go by Woodinville on the way up to Bellingham.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that. But anyway, great to catch up with you.
Sounds good, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
All right. Bye.